The officer kicked my face with his boots until my teeth were broken and I'd lost the hearing in my left ear.
I personally experienced watching public execution. I was only 11 around.
As one of the most isolated places, you could only imagine what unthinkable horrors have occurred within the borders of North Korea.
It's the scariest place in the world.
Today we'll uncover some of the country's darkest secrets. And warning, this episode is not for the faint of heart. Viewer discretion is advised. From labor camps, executions, extreme hunger, and laws that could affect your unborn children, the family-run country is full of skeletons, both figuratively and literally.
As a punishment, my finger was cut off, but I was just relieved that I wasn't publicly executed, and as a child, I was just thankful that was it.
Some have successfully escaped the wrath of the Kim family, but continue to deal with the aftermath of their experiences.
They told me, from now on, you're not a human being, you don't have a name.
Without access to the outside world, as well as having state-run media, the citizens of North Korea are lied to on a daily basis. While most people live in poverty, the country's leader, Kim Jong Un, and his comrades are well cared for. Their military has also grown to heights no one thought was possible, making it one of the most feared. We're talking about the capabilities to start World War III. How did this man escape one of North Korea's most highly guarded prison camps? Why are North Koreans harvesting human manure? And was Kim Jong Un replaced with a body double? Before we expose North Korea, be sure to like and subscribe for more survival videos. Following the Korean War in the early 1950s, the North Korean leader at the time, Kim Il-sung, started to break away from the communist ways of the Soviets and aimed to reframe his country's independence. Around this time, Sung introduced a social hierarchy system called Songbun that is based on citizens' allegiance to Kim as a leader. The Songbun system categorizes its citizens into three types: loyal, wavering, and hostile. Similar to the upper, middle, and lower classes, depending on your status, you will enjoy a life of luxury or face a much more difficult time for the foreseeable future. However, unlike someone born into a lower-class family who can make a significant change, the Songbun system can affect you for 3 generations. This is known as the 3-generation law. This means if your grandfather was outspoken about the North Korean government, you and your father would be punished, no matter how patriotic you are. To no surprise, those who are seen as the most loyal get to enjoy the best North Korea has to offer, from education to work opportunities, and even access to food when famine hits, which happens quite often. Citizens seen as hostile are treated as prisoners, with the lucky ones being forced to work in labor camps. But lucky maybe isn't the right term to use. And for any citizens who are deemed extremely hostile, they can be given the death penalty. According to some unverified testimony, this could include death by firing squad, decapitation, or hanging, and they're often done in public to set an example. In 1972, following his father's footsteps with Songbun, Kim Jong-il implemented what's known as the Juche ideology. Juche follows 4 principles: autonomy in ideology, independence in politics, self-sufficiency in the economy, and self-reliance in defense. With a focus on growing North Korea as its own country, Kim Il-sung shifted his attention to building a self-sustainable nation with a powerful military. This led to the government constructing more military airfields and underground aircraft hangars. It also focused on recruitment, encouraging citizens to fight for their country. However, the newfound ideology also meant the government would take control of everything within its borders. Statues of Sung were built all over the nation in an effort to coax their citizens into believing he was a leader of the people. This was also when the government restricted international travel and took complete control of the state's media. The only citizens allowed to leave North Korea these days are diplomats, elite students, recruited workers, and athletes, all the while being monitored 24/7 and questioned upon their return. As the years went on and the Soviet Union started to fall apart, so did Kim Il-sung's health. This is when his son, Kim Jong-il, started to take on more responsibilities. In 1994, following his father's death, he became the country's new supreme leader. This officially came into effect after the nation's 3-year mourning period of their first leader, Kim Il-sung. And on the anniversary of his death, you better be extra careful about how you act. Kim Jong Il ran the country until he suffered a heart attack and died in 2011, allowing the country's current leader, Kim Jong Un, his son, to take over. With his family's roots deeply tied to the state's independence, Kim Jong Un has continued upholding rather absurd laws. But as silly as they are, you could suffer severe punishment if you're caught breaking them, and so will any future generations carrying your name. For example, men must choose from 10 different haircuts, and women can choose from 18. This is to maintain the country's ideology and reduce any influence from the outside world. Portraits of the country's 2 previous leaders, Kim Jong Un's father and grandfather, are also essential in every household. But the law doesn't stop there. In addition to being required to maintain the portraits, they must be framed taller than anyone in the household and kept immaculately clean. Inspectors regularly go door to door to check on them. And if there's even a slight layer of dust, your whole family could face jail time. Oh, and speaking of which, the portraits should be the first thing saved in a house fire. Seriously, if your kids are in a burning house and you opt to save them first, you may face some serious consequences. And if you're a government official caught napping, like Defense Minister Hyun Young-chol was in 2015 during an event attended by Kim Jong Un, you could be publicly executed by anti-aircraft guns in front of hundreds of people. Not a fun way to go. But this isn't even the worst of it. Given that the Kim family is seen as gods in the country, the government implemented an annual 10-day mourning period following Kim Il-sung's death. During this mourning period, citizens cannot laugh, drink alcohol, celebrate birthdays, or do anything leisurely. Starting on December 17th, if you're caught doing any of these things, you may be jailed or executed. The Indian Express reported that not only were people not allowed to grocery shop on December 17th, but if a family member had died during the mourning period, you weren't even allowed to mourn their death verbally. To make matters worse, the report claimed you couldn't even remove the body. Even tourists like American Auto Warm Beer have suffered severe consequences for supposedly stealing a poster.
Please, I have made the worst mistake of my life.
We did a whole episode all about this tragic tale, so be sure to check it out after. But if you think North Korean laws are archaic, the lack of human rights and freedoms will shock you to the core. Warning, this next section may be disturbing to some viewers. From overpopulated prisons to child labor, North Korea has been recorded as having the worst human rights record internationally. Food is also disproportionately spread among citizens. Over 13 million North Koreans are malnourished, with 60% of them being children. Many prisoners are forced to eat insects and rats to survive, and during the worst of times, seeing bodies in the streets was common. Freedom of expression and religion are also frowned upon, with an estimated 70,000 Christians being held in North Korean prisons. Although the country has a few state-owned Christian churches in Pyongyang, they are mostly just showpieces for foreigners to promote the false image of religious freedom. Many observers have noticed these churches have been closed during Sunday worship. State-run media also prevents North Koreans from being influenced by foreign countries. Without access to the internet or foreign news stations, any information related to the people of North Korea is first approved or likely produced by their government. To this day, the majority of North Korean citizens are only allowed to watch 4 state-controlled TV channels, and internet access is completely restricted, save for 30 or so sites on the government's intranet, like this traditional recipe site. To no surprise, all of their media is depicted to promote North Korean propaganda and their leader, while also villainizing the outside world.
Kim Il-sung was sent to camp number 18 at Pukchang at the age of 13. Her grandfather escaped allegedly to South Korea. That was the reason for the relocation of the whole family. She spent there 28 years.
Children as young as 11 years old are sent to work in labor camps, potentially paying for crimes their parents or grandparents were accused of.
In the afternoon, the 5-year-old was sent to the mountains to do hard labor. The only positive thing about that was that it was possible to catch mice, rats, worms, and snakes for the eternally hungry stomachs.
However, children born with disabilities face a much more grim fate. Dr. Ri-Kwang Chol, who was able to escape North Korea, claimed that newborns with physical differences were, at one point, immediately killed and buried. Other children are brought into the world only knowing life inside prison. This was the case for Shin Dong-hyuk, who managed to escape and share the horrors he experienced during the early years of his life.
In the South Korean capital of Seoul, we've made contact with a young man of 26 years who, until 2 years ago, didn't know that a world existed outside of the barbed wire.
Born in Kaichon Prison, commonly called Camp 14, Shin only knew a life of hard labor and malnourishment. His parents were prisoners who were allowed to marry as a reward for their hard work. Although it seems neither side had much say on who they married, with Shin's father telling him his mother was gifted to him by guards. At age 6, Shin, his brother, and mother were all moved to Camp 18, known for being less severe than where he was born. Up until he was 12, Shin lived with his mother and saw his father only on rare occasions. The North Korean guards told Shin that he was imprisoned because of his parents' crimes against the state. They also made it clear that if he didn't work hard or disobeyed the guards, he would be punished or executed. At 13, Shin overheard his mother and brother planning an escape. Starving and fearing for his life, he told the guards about what he heard. But instead of being rewarded for his loyalty, he was forced to watch his family's execution.
Growing up, did you ever think about escaping?
That never crossed my mind. What I thought was that the society outside the camp would be similar to that inside the camp.
Under the impression that the entire world is like a prison camp, Shin never had a reason to escape. That was until a new prisoner told him about the outside world.
That desire to eat, that freedom to eat whatever I wanted, compelled me to escape.
On his third attempt, and after months of torture, Shin would escape. After formulating a plan with his cellmate, the two would make a run for it, but only one of them would make it out alive. With armed guards and electric fencing surrounding the prisons, an escape is not only challenging, but a potential death sentence. Although the pair were able to dodge the guards, the shock from the fence killed Shin's cellmate on the spot. However, this allowed Shin to climb over his body and escape successfully.
When I think back, that's the biggest sin I have committed. I still feel guilty.
But Shin Dong-hyuk isn't the only citizen who's managed to escape North Korea's borders, seeking a better life, especially considering how badly their food supplies have dwindled since COVID-19. Under Supreme Leader Kim Jong Un's government, North Korea's military spending took precedence over ensuring its citizens are provided with basic human needs. During COVID-19, he ordered to shut down trade with China and close North Korea's borders to protect its citizens. This blocked shipments of grain, fertilizer, and crucial farming equipment. As a result, the United Nations estimates that 43% of the population was food insecure. And the kicker? Each household was ordered to collect 22 pounds of dried human feces to be used as fertilizer. This was during one of their hottest summers. Just imagine the stench. To the surprise of no one, the government downplayed the severity of the COVID situation, claiming that after 2 years they had defeated the virus, and blamed South Korea for initially spreading it. But that wasn't the only rumor that was spreading. During the pandemic, a conspiracy grew that Kim Jong Un had been replaced by a body double as the overweight leader started making public appearances looking much slimmer. With his family's history of heart disease, both his father and grandfather dying of heart attacks, some believed the real Kim was bedridden or even dead.
Rumors had been rife about Kim's health after he underwent a heart surgery last month. Some publications even reported his death, calling the man in the photographs Kim's body double.
But it turned out Kim just opted for a healthier lifestyle. This was confirmed by a South Korean intelligence agency, which keeps tabs on North Korea's leader, given his unpredictable nature. As of now, it seems Kim Jong Un's focus is on continuing to grow his military capabilities while remaining close to neighboring countries such as Russia and China, with the country regularly performing missile tests and now harboring an arsenal of around 50 nukes. Who knows what Un is planning to do next? As tensions between the North and South continue to rise, as well as a troublesome relationship with the United States, let's hope things don't go from bad to worse. Like World War III worse. We ran an AI simulation of World War III, and let me tell you, what it predicted does not look good for us. We'll gear up for battle on another episode of How to Survive.